Welcome to the Hey Mama Homeschool Show, centered around family life and home education. How do you get homeschooling and housework done? How do you help children who are struggling? How do you teach a rebellious child? We have answers. You pour into your family daily, and we are here to help you. Brought to you by the Old Schoolhouse, your trusted partner for over 20 years.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Hey Mama Homeschool Show. I'm your host, Christine, and I'm a homeschooling mom of two boys here in Ontario, Canada, and I have the privilege of working for the Old Schoolhouse. Today's episode is sponsored by My School Year. Are you ready to get organized? Use My School Year and take control of your record keeping, lesson planning, and reporting needs, including transcripts. Visit myschoolyear.com and you can use promo code podcast24. So today we're diving into an exciting and very important topic for both new and seasoned homeschooling families. We're talking about homeschooling methods, styles, and philosophies. Whether you're just getting started or looking to refine your approach, understanding these different frameworks can help you find the best fit for your family's unique needs. So, let's start with the traditional school at home method. So, this is perhaps the most familiar to many parents because it mirrors the structure of the conventional schooling. So in this approach, families use standard textbooks, follow a set curriculum, and often have a schedule that resembles a typical school day. And so what does a typical school day look like with this method? Well, imagine a setup where your child starts their day with a morning routine, just like they would in a public or private school. They might have designated periods for subjects like math, science, history, and language arts. And, you'd probably incorporate a few breaks in between for snacks and lunch. So, one of the biggest advantages of this method is its structured nature. For parents and children who really thrive on routine and predictability, this method is a perfect fit. The consistency can help create a stable learning environment, which can be especially beneficial for children who need a clear framework to succeed. So, what about materials? There are several major curriculum providers out there that cater to this traditional type of method. I know you may have come across companies like Abeka or BJU Press. And for one company that I used at the very beginning was Sunlight Curriculum. And these programs offer, comprehensive packages. They're really, this is what I liked about Sunlight. It was really literature heavy, which is a favorite of mine. So that's what I was looking for when I was just getting started with the homeschooling journey. And so these packages that I would get would cover all the core subjects, including lesson plans, which was so good to have just getting started, just to see it all laid out, how to assess, and just you would have that teacher support if you needed it. If you've been following me for a while, you know that I have a background in the public school system, so I was a little bit familiar with, creating lesson plans and reporting and all of that stuff. So I didn't need a whole lot of teacher support, but it was nice to know that, if I got stuck, it was there. So there is that option out there. And so this structure, while the structure of this particular method is a huge advantage for many, it can also provide some drawbacks. The structure itself could become overwhelming, especially if you've got those who actually function better with a more flexible student-led approach. It can also be challenging to meet the needs of children who have different learning styles or those who require more hands-on experiential learning. So, and this is what happened with my boys. We had done the whole set curriculum with my first son, and he did really well with it. And that kind of style of teaching, he responded to well. But when my second came along and I thought, oh, look, I'll just recycle all of the curriculum that I paid that I paid money for. And it turns out he just was not responding. He is not one that appreciates the heavy literature. Unfortunately, no, don't get me wrong, he likes to read, but when it comes to the textbook style of studying, that's not his thing. So I had to adjust, and we'll talk about those other kinds of strategies in a little while. But another thing that for the traditional method is the amount of planning and preparation that goes with this because it is so labor intensive in terms of preparing the readings and the assignments and the science experiments. Then there's all the grading for all of these assignments and projects and whatnot. So it is a little more intensive in terms of work for both sides, for both kids and parents. So it can become very demanding, and it is overwhelming, especially if you're brand new to homeschooling and you don't have that background, of teaching. It can definitely be a little overwhelming. But despite these challenges, many families find the traditional school at home method to be a reassuring way to start their homeschooling journey. So you just got to figure out what is more important to you. So it does provide a clear roadmap and can ease the transition from traditional school settings to a home-based education. So, it's because they are so similar. For us, I didn't send my kids to the public school from the get-go. So I didn't have to worry about the transition, but many homeschoolers are making that transition. And so that is something to consider to help make it a little easier. And so if you're considering this type of method, I recommend starting with a well-known curriculum and, do your Google research. That's what I had to do. I spent, some time just Googling all what was out there, reading the reviews, looking at the contents, looking at all the samples that you can find, and maybe even printing out some of those samples and trying it with your son or your daughter and seeing how they respond to it. And then obviously you're looking at your budget, things like that. Make sure you get yourself into a homeschooling group if you're not already, that who can, you're bound to find someone who's tried these curriculum companies and you can go from their recommendations. And hey, if you've just, started and this was your plan from the get-go, you can do this. Just don't be afraid to tweak the schedule, be a little bit flexible with yourself, and definitely have those moments where you can tweak the schedule or the curriculum. That is something that Sunlight actually recommends. Like, here's the set curriculum, but you don't have to do everything that we say. You can, but you don't have to. So just remember that you can be flexible even if it is a set curriculum. So the next method that I was going to talk about is the classical education method. And this one is rooted in Greek and Roman tradition. If you're considering classical education, you're going to look at three major stages, which is grammar, logic, and rhetoric. So the classical education approach is known for its rigorous, systematic structure. So the idea is that education builds upon itself, with each stage preparing the student for the next. So this method is going to emphasize critical thinking, expression, and a deep understanding of the foundational knowledge that you're accumulating. So the first stage would be the grammar stage, and this is usually covered in the elementary years. So during this period, the focus is on absorbing fundamental knowledge. Children at this age are naturally good at memorization, so this is the best time to do it. So they learn the basic facts in subjects such as math, science, history, and of course, language arts. So children might memorize multiplication tables, historical dates, the grammar rules, and in some cases, they could even do poetry. for memorization. And so their goal is to fill the minds with as much factual information as possible. And this is going to lay a solid foundation for future learning. And some of the ways that are used to implement this is the use of flashcards. You can use songs, and of course, repetition. Repetition is key. And it's not just about memorization. It involves introducing the students to classical literature and stories that illustrate moral lessons and human virtues. So that's the grammar stage. And so the next stage would be the logic stage, which is your middle school years. This is going to help students begin to think more analytically. So they're going to start to question and analyze and understand the relationships between different pieces of knowledge they acquired in the grammar stage. So again, there's that concept of building upon what you've already learned. So for example, in history, students might study, the cause and effect, compare different events that they learned about, and understand historical context. In science, they might be understanding scientific methods and processes. So logic is explicitly taught during the stage. Students learn formal logic and argumentation, which is going to help them develop skills in constructing and deconstructing arguments. And so this critical thinking skill is obviously a very important part of learning. And it's, not just for academic purposes, but for everyday decision making and problem solving. So once they finish that stage, they go to the rhetoric stage, which is the high school years. And there, you're going to focus the shifts to expressing knowledge and understanding eloquently and persuasively. So here we are building again. Students build on the facts that they learned in the grammar stage and the analytical skills they developed in the logic stage to communicate their ideas effectively. So there's going to be more debate style learning and writing research papers and presenting their arguments in both written and oral forms. So they're going to study the art of rhetoric and learning how to use language to persuade and inform. They're going to analyze, works of literature, philosophy, history, and engage deeply with the material and developing their own viewpoints. So as you can see, this is really an intensive way of learning with an intention of where you want to go and where you want to shape your children. And one of the places that you may have heard of is Classical Conversations. And they're actually really good for providing resources and community support if you choose something like this. So you can look them up. They offer weekly community meetings where students can engage in the curriculums together and allow parents to share insights and resources. So definitely check them out if you're considering this classical approach. If you're considering the classical education method, obviously it does sound a lot more rigorous than the previous one, which is the traditional way. And that's okay. If that's something that you desire for your children, just again, remember that, take it one step at a time because it is building upon what you learn. Take that as your cue and go with the pace that your child can handle because you can be flexible with that. And remember, the goal is to foster a lifelong love of learning. So you don't want it to become something that is too stressful for both yourself and your child. So keep that in mind if you're considering a classical education method. Now, the next method I wanted to bring up was the Charlotte Mason method. And you may have come across that name if you have been researching homeschooling for some time. She is very well known in the homeschooling circles, and many homeschoolers follow her ideologies. The Charlotte Mason method was developed by a 19th century British educator. Her idea of living books, meaning high quality literature that makes subjects come alive, has been incorporated in this way of teaching. So Mason believed that education is an atmosphere, it is a discipline and a way of life. So this approach focuses on nurturing a child's mind, body, and spirit through a rich and varied curriculum. So I mentioned living books. One of the cornerstones of this method is using these books. So these are high quality literature, and they're not going to be just factual textbooks. These are books that are written by authors who are passionate about their subjects, which hopefully are going to make the material engaging and memorable. So these books cover a wide range of subjects, including history, science, literature, and other subjects. So after reading a living book, children are encouraged to narrate what they've learned. So narration is also a process that is included in this method where a child is going to retell the story in their own words. So this practice helps with comprehension and retention as your child processes and articulates what they've just read. So for younger children, this might be an oral narration, while older children might actually, write summaries or essays. Another aspect of the Charlotte Mason method is nature study. Mason believed that spending time outdoors and observing nature firsthand was crucial for a child's development. Nature study helps children appreciate the beauty and the complexity of the natural world, and it fosters a sense of wonder and curiosity. Families who follow the Charlotte Mason way often keep nature journals where children draw and write about their observations. They go for walks very often, and just go exploring. And this practice not only enhances their observation skills, it also integrates subjects like art and science in a meaningful way. So it encourages children to slow down, notice all the little details, and, develop a deep connection with God's creation. Charlotte Mason also advocated for short, focused lessons. And I tell you, as a mom of two boys, I can appreciate this because sitting down for long lessons just stresses everybody out over here. So we always do short, focused lessons, especially for when they're younger. Charlotte Mason believed that children's attention spans are limited, so lessons should be concise and varied. This approach helps maintain the child's interest and enthusiasm for learning. And I can attest that that definitely helps. Alongside the importance of academic learning, Charlotte Mason also emphasized the importance of habit training. She believed that good habits form the foundation of good character and effective learning. Habits such as attention, obedience, truthfulness, and neatness are cultivated through gentle, consistent practice. So, this is the whole idea that would work towards children developing not just intellectually, but also morally and emotionally. And art appreciation, music study, and handicrafts are also really big parts of the Charlotte Mason method. Children are encouraged to study the works of great artists, composers, and learning to appreciate and enjoy what they create. So if you're considering the Charlotte Mason method, just know that it doesn't require a rigid schedule or extensive materials. The focus is on creating a rich, stimulating environment where children are exposed to great ideas and encouraged to explore their interests. Flexibility and a love for learning are at the heart of this approach. That's one of the benefits, obviously. But let's talk about what could be a challenge for some families. Finding the right living books and incorporating nature study and arts into a daily routine could be difficult depending on, the space that you have, the time that you have. And, for you as the parent, you need to be comfortable with a less structured approach. and trust the process of learning through exploration and experience. So if you're not accustomed to that, you've grown up with this structure and you function better in structure, it might be difficult for you to switch gears and do what seems like the opposite to your style. And so you got to consider that when choosing something like this. But despite these challenges, many families find the Charlotte Mason method deeply rewarding because it fosters that love of learning, it nurtures creativity, and it helps children develop a well-rounded character. And so, again, if you're considering this way or you're just getting started with the Charlotte Mason method, start small and gradually incorporate, one thing at a time. So, if you haven't incorporated nature walks, that can come in intervals, right? You start small, maybe once or twice, maybe once a month, even. I don't know, whatever works for your family. But again, this style is going to allow you to be as flexible as you need to be. Yeah, and incorporating those living books and doing art and music and all of those things, you can definitely take your time and go according to your child's interests. And I'll pause here to remind you all of our sponsor for this episode. It is My School Year. Are you ready to get organized? Use My School Year and take control of your record keeping, lesson planning, and reporting needs, including transcripts. Visit myschoolyear.com and use promo code podcast24. Okay, back to some more homeschooling styles and methods and philosophies. The next one I wanted to talk to you about is unschooling, and this one is a more relatively new concept and the most unconventional approach that we'll talk about today. So, unschooling is a child directed learning method where there is no set curriculum. Instead, learning is guided by the children's interests and curiosities. So, the philosophy behind unschooling is that children learn best when they are free to explore topics they are passionate about in their own time and way. So, right away, I can tell you unschooling is not for me because it I feel uneasy just letting totally out of my control. But that's just me. This could be you that could really benefit from unschooling. Unschooling was popularized by educator John Holt in the 1970s, and he believed that traditional schooling often stifles a child's natural curiosity for love for learning. So instead, he advocated for a learning environment where children have the freedom to pursue their interests, ask questions, and learn through life experiences. Unschooling is based on the idea that learning is a natural process that happens all the time and not just in a classroom. At the heart of unschooling is trust. You have to trust in the child's innate ability to learn and trust in the process of natural learning. This approach emphasizes respect for the child's autonomy and individual learning style. Parents who choose unschooling act as facilitators rather than traditional teachers, providing resources, support, and opportunities for their children to explore their passions. So, as I mentioned, unschooling allows for learning through everyday life experiences. So, for example, a trip to the grocery store can become a math lesson on, budgeting, weighing produce, and comparing prices. Cooking at home can involve chemistry and fractions. Or, gardening can teach biology and environmental science. So children with this method might learn to read because they want to read a favorite book, or they might write because they want to send letters to friends. They might dive deep into history because of an interest sparked by a documentary or a visit to a museum. So you can see that possibilities are really endless when it comes to this open way of learning, and learning is going to be driven by your child's curiosity and interests. So, if you are sparked by this notion of unschooling. Let me just tell you a little bit more. The role of the parent shifts from that of an instructor to more of a guide and facilitator, as I mentioned. And so parents are going to be observing their child's interests and provide resources and opportunities to explore those interests further. This might involve taking children to the library, finding mentors, arranging field trips, or providing materials for hands-on projects. One of the things to note is communication between the child and parent is very important. Parents need to listen to their children's ideas, questions, and interests, and be ready to support their exploration. It's a dynamic and a responsive approach to education, requiring flexibility and openness from the parents. So one of the significant benefits of unschooling is that it fosters a deep level of learning. Children learn because they want to and not because they have to. This motivation can lead to a deeper understanding and retention of knowledge. Unschooling also allows children to develop at their own pace. There's no rush to meet external standards or benchmarks, so children can take the time that they need to fully explore and understand a topic. This can be particularly beneficial for children who might struggle in a traditional school setting. Additionally, unschooling often results in strong family bonds. Since parents and children spend a lot more time together, sharing experiences and learning side by side, it can lead to a closer, more connected family dynamic. So that being said, there are some challenges to consider. One of the most common concerns is ensuring that children receive a well-rounded education. So without a set curriculum, it can be very easy to overlook some of the traditional academic subjects if you're not careful. Parents need to be proactive in providing a diverse range of experiences and resources that, would cover the most important subjects. Another challenge is dealing with external perceptions and potential criticism. So, because this is fairly new and fairly much drastically different than the other methods, people may question its effectiveness, and it's important for parents to be confident in their choice, as with the other choices, of course, but to be prepared to explain their educational philosophy to others when they are approached. So if you wanted to find out more about this unschooling method, there are tons of resources out there. You can look up John Holt and find some of his books out there, such as How Children Learn and Learning All the Time. Those will probably give you a good foundation into the philosophy and practice of unschooling. And again, check out the homeschooling groups out there and ask questions, see who's doing that approach, and get more information from those who are actually doing it. And the last method I wanted to chat with you about today is the eclectic or relaxed homeschooling method. And this approach is a flexible, customized method that combines elements from various homeschooling styles to suit the unique needs of each child and family. And see, this is where I fall because I really customize how I teach, and it changes every year and for every child. And as I mentioned, I started off with one way and quickly realized that it didn't work for the exact same way was not going to work for my second one. So I have learned over the past 10 years or so that the flexible nature of relaxed homeschooling or eclectic homeschooling is the way to go for me. And it allows me to tailor their educational plan. I do this every year. I sit down, okay, we wrapped up this year, and I go over what they need to cover, and I kind of build from there. And it is based on my children's interests. I can incorporate all of that, and I can look to their strengths and their learning styles as I build. So this is what works best for me. And so the philosophy behind eclectic homeschooling is that there is no one-size-fits-all approach to education. Instead of sticking to one method, Eclectic homeschoolers pick and choose the best resources, strategies, and practices from different educational philosophies. And, this, like I mentioned before, it could be from the traditional schooling, it could be from classical education, it could be from the Charlotte Mason, could be through unschooling, or, there's probably more out there, but the ones that I'm mentioning are the most popular right now. And one of the primary, principles of eclectic homeschooling is the flexibility, which I mentioned. And if you've heard me talk for some time now, flexibility is my favorite word. It's how I live my life. And this approach allows for a dynamic and adaptive learning environment, which is so key for how life works. Because I feel like if you were stuck in a set way of doing things, I feel like you would struggle more. And I feel like that was how I was doing things right at the beginning. And it was so much more stressful because I needed to check the boxes and I needed to get certain things done. And now it's a little bit more relaxed as we're calling this kind of approach, which allows me to teach better and allows my children to learn in a more relaxed environment. So parents like me, we can adjust the curriculum as needed, incorporating new materials and approaches as the children's interests and needs evolve, which can evolve on at random sometimes. One minute they like dinosaurs, and the next week they're like, "Yeah, I'm done with that." So it can change pretty quickly. So I like having this flexibility, and it just helps me keep them engaged and to stay relevant so that they still love learning. So, like I said, we parents who do this method will create a customized curriculum that blends various educational resources. And that can mean from these curriculum companies that I mentioned, some of them, and they could be built from purely unit studies, or you could just make your own if you've got the know-how, or if you've been through this a couple of times and you've seen a couple of examples. Trust me, it's not as hard as it seems to create your own. There's so many free resources out there where you can build, even just getting stuff through the library, and a couple of free online sources that you can get to just, build as you go. So this method is particularly beneficial to families with multiple children. So you can adapt the learning experience to meet the diverse needs and interests of each child. So you're not getting separate curriculums for each child because that's a lot to manage. So, and this is similar to, the Charlotte Mason way and unschooling, where, you've got to have that relationship with your kids. You've got to have that open communication. You're going to be talking, like my kids have a say in what they want to learn, what styles they like, what kind of ways they want to engage with some of the learning. And sure, they might say, let's just watch YouTube videos. But you, as the facilitator, can say no and set some guidelines, set some ground rules, and go from there. But the fact that you can talk about it and that they have a stake in their own education helps them be more invested in it. So, this is why I like this way of educating my children. So, one of the huge benefits of eclectic homeschooling is its adaptability. And again, that flexibility. So you can adjust the pace. You find that your kid is just struggling on a specific area. That's okay. You can slow things down and just really focus on that, get other materials to help, build their skills in that area so they can master it and match them as they go through the stages of learning. And you're going to have the ability to integrate a wide range of subjects and activities through this way. So you can do this through, obviously academic studies, but artistic pursuits, physical activities, life skills, all of this is included in this kind of approach. So it is nurturing this well-rounded individual with diverse interests and abilities. So one of the challenges, so we just talked about benefits, but there are always challenges. Creating and managing a customized curriculum can be time consuming, especially if you're not as accustomed to doing it. But you just have to decide if this is, what's your end goal, right? So if this is something that that you're not going to get in a textbook out there, or you're not going to get from a set curriculum out there, and maybe the reason why you're keeping your child home for homeschooling is because you don't like the content that's out there, this is your opportunity to do that. So, but as long as you know that you're going to be customizing it, it shouldn't be too much. But yeah, you got to know yourself too. If you're not in really, your strong suit is not, creating and customizing and managing all of this stuff, and you're not familiar with it, you might need to take that into consideration. And another challenge is maintaining balance. Because one of the benefits is having so many options. Sometimes it happens where you schedule way too many things, and then all of a sudden you have no time, and it gets a little bit hectic. So you've got to be mindful of that. And again, you need to set clear priorities and goals when you're doing this so that you don't overwhelm yourself. So that requires regularly reassessing and adjusting as you go. So, you do a little checkpoint, like maybe 3 months, 4 months in, and you're going to say, okay, is this working? Is this not working? And the good thing is you can take it out right there and not drag it on for the whole entire year. You're not locked in, and this is a good thing. So while there are challenges, there are ways around it. So if you are considering something like this, look at your child's needs and interests, do your research, look at the resources, see what you can use, and don't be afraid to mix and match because you don't have to get everything from one place. Make sure you're creating a flexible schedule that you can actually create a flexible schedule. Make sure you set your goals and an evaluation time. And again, with the other ones, connect with a homeschooling community and find the ones that, if this is the method that you choose, find a home Charlotte Mason one, find an eclectic homeschooling group, and network with others and gain that valuable insight, encouragement, and support. So that was a bunch, and I probably gave you a lot to think about, and you can pause and rewind, and if you still rewind in this day and age, go back and listen again. And I do encourage you to get out there and just Google these homeschooling methods and ideologies, and just really think about it and pray about it, of course. And the beauty of homeschooling lies in its flexibility and the ability to adapt to whatever works for your family. So while I've been saying, look at what other people are doing, don't base your decision based on what other people are doing. Listen to what they're doing, yes. See the different ideas that you can incorporate, but it comes down to you knowing your children the best, and what's going to resonate with you. And remember those goals and priorities that you set. Whatever you choose to do and how you do it is going to be working towards those goals. And so, hey, if you have any questions about these, or you want to share your experiences with any of these methods, I invite you to reach out to me or to any of us, actually. Reach out to us at the Hey Mama Homeschool Show, and let us know. And let's continue the conversation, and let's help you find the right method for you, because we want you to succeed, of course. So thanks for tuning in to the Hey Mama Homeschool Show. And hey, before I go, I just want to encourage you to subscribe if you haven't already. And just so that here's a list of upcoming episodes. Come out every Monday. What's next is spellers and non-spellers, how to teach both. Then we have how important are the electives? And then homeschool moms cry too. So mark those down. Those are coming up next on the Hey Mama Homeschool Show. You can find all of the notes that were mentioned in this podcast and more resources to get you more connected on our website, which is homeschoolshow.com. And we hope to see you again soon. Thanks for listening.